investigation going off script during a speech to members of the National Rifle Association. The president declared, "I love fighting these battles." He read the crowd reports of a judge's complaint today that Mueller's team seems to be getting out there to get the president. Let's get to our specialist right now to talk about all of this. And I want to go to Jeffrey Toobin first. What did you make of what the judge said today, Jeffrey? Did that surprise you at all? It was unusually harsh.
It was unusually harsh, and it was certainly a bad day for the Mueller team, which has not had many bad days in court, but it's not really the bad day the way you might think about it. The odds that Judge Ellis are actually going to dismiss the case are remote. I mean, if you look at the law, it just doesn't seem like the judge has any basis on which to dismiss the complaint. However, good days like this make Manafort less likely to plead guilty and cooperate. And that is a problem for the Mueller office because clearly that is something that they want. The other reason a day like this is a problem is that it contributes to the politicization of the office, like it or not, that it creates the impression that they are out to get Trump, they are out to get Republicans, and that is not a healthy thing for this office, fair or not. So I don't think there's any sort of fatal damage in the works here, but this is certainly not a good day for the Mueller office.
And Gloria Borger, it certainly worked to the president's advantage. Let's take a listen here.
Judge T.S. Ellis, who is really something very special, I hear from many standpoints. He's a respected person. Suggested the charges before the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia were just part of the Mueller team's designs to pressure Mr. Manafort into giving up information on President Donald Trump or others in the campaign. I've been saying that for a long time. It's a witch hunt. Then, none of that information has to do with information related to the Russian government coordination and the campaign of Donald Trump. It doesn't have anything to do. It's from years before. Then, how does this have anything to do with the campaign, the judge asked? Let me tell you, folks, we're all fighting battles.
We're all fighting battles. That part is true, Gloria.
Well, look, if I were Donald Trump, I would be using this information too today. I mean, this was good for him, as Jeffrey was saying, because the judge, without saying witch hunt, was asking the same questions that Donald Trump is asking. Now, what the judge has asked for is the memo that Rosenstein has written explaining what Mueller is really going to be looking into, which would then give him some indication of exactly why the special counsel's team believes this is important to their case. Right. So once the judge reads that and gets more information, the judge may then say, okay, proceed, or the judge may give the special counsel's team some more trouble. But this was the first good news that Manafort's team has had in a very long time.
If he says, okay, proceed, he may not be such a special person anymore to Donald Trump.
And the president referred to Paul Manafort as a good person today. David, what did you make of these remarks? I mean, I guess it's no surprise that he would seize on this.
Well, remember, Paul Manafort, unlike some other characters in this drama, has not flipped, has not cooperated with prosecutors here. He's still fighting these charges, so you can imagine that is pleasing to Donald Trump that he hasn't and cooperated with.
You'd like him to continue
what Trump
doing
perceives
that.
to be his antagonist.
Yeah.
Like him to continue doing that. And if indeed Paul Manafort were to go up in flames throughout this whole thing, I don't think Donald Trump will have any problem changing his tune and not talking about what a great man he is.
And Sean, let me ask you this. The president appears to be increasingly willing to take on Robert Mueller and tweets and so on. I mean, he's called it a witch hunt and so on for a long time. But it just seems to be ratcheting up a notch, and perhaps that has something to do with the departure of Ty Cobb and Rudy Giuliani sounding very fiery on Fox News. Good idea, bad idea? What do you think?
Well, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, we know why the president's doing it. I mean, look, the president understands that there is a block of voters out there that are extremely reluctant to abandon him. Scandal after scandal after scandal, no matter what happens, they're going to stick with the president. The president's sitting at 40% approval rating right now. He was at 40% when he came into office. And so he understands why they won't abandon him. He understands that they see him as someone who came into this town and who shook things up. He's beating up the establishment and he's fighting. Like he said today, he loves having these fights. That's why he thinks he can go after Mueller, and he understands that if the more he does that, the more this base of voters are going to stay with him.
And Jeffrey, what is the risk of a subpoena at this point? I was talking to a source earlier today who said, you know, listen, a subpoena fight could drag for another year, which means we're all going to be talking about this for another year.
You know, it's a risk to both sides, that sort of fight, because I don't think Mueller wants to be working on this investigation for another year, and certainly the president doesn't want to be distracted for another year. Legally, I think, you know, the end of that fight is preordained. Trump will lose. I mean, the Supreme Court is all but said a president is not immune from a grand jury subpoena. So the risk is that he will be forced to answer questions or take the fifth, and that's both of them are considerable risks. But you know, there are risks to Mueller as well, because a lengthy fight while he is being accused by the president and others of a witch hunt is not going to be a pleasant experience for him.
Okay.
You know, I spoke with Robert Ray not too long ago. It was in the Starr investigation, and he said something to me that I haven't forgotten, which is that when a special counsel loses the public support, it's a real problem. And that's exactly what the president is trying to do with Mueller. He's trying to discredit Mueller's team. It's a political argument he's making. So if he doesn't testify or pleads the fifth or gets in a fight or whatever, he will still have the public with him as he says, you know, you can't trust Mueller, just the same way the Democrats did.